Hello. How are you today? Do you want to dive into a book that might just surprise you? Whether it becomes your next favorite or one you might skip, let's find out what readers are saying about it. Farda Huss, who has 82 likes, says, 4.5 stars. How could you? Author, you kept me awake till 2 a.m. and gave me a cliffhanger. And this book isn't even officially published yet. This was originally a Dramione fanfic, yes. That won the auction. And it's now been rewritten and published as an original novel. Funny thing, IDN fed the auction despite all the Reddit wrecks. It's still sitting in the corner of my Kindle, unfinished. But when I heard this new version was getting published, I got excited to try it again. And here I am. Not disappointed and loving this one. I am actually happy I didn't read the fanfic, because the author kept me in the dark. I didn't know what would happen until it happened. And I loved that. I enjoyed the world building. How the world is divided into the summer and winter realms, loved that. Honestly, I was so curious how the author would weave the story and the magic. Knowing this started as a Harry Potter fanfic with such incredible world building and magic. Well, it didn't disappoint, but I really needed more details. Though, I would have loved it if the mind barrier part had been more fleshed out. Like actually showing how Bryony trained for it, not just thinking about the lake, reading a book, and then boom, she's suddenly specialized in it. The characters are definitely Dramione-coded. I love my Dramione. So I absolutely loved Tovin and Bryony, and Guyss, the tensions between them. Oh, I love how the author teasing us. The slow burned, really burning guys. I mean, I waited for like eternity for them to finally touch sexually, and it is in the briefest of moment. I want Maury. Oh, and I didn't cringe. Not even once. Zero cringe. Non-existent. If you know me, you know how much that matters to me, lol. Note, huge thanks to Forever Grand Central Publishing for sending me my dream arc. I'll be impatiently counting the days until the next book drops. Mira, who has 67 likes, says, 4.5. I'll start by saying that I haven't read the auction, which this book is based on, so I had no idea what to expect. I simply enjoyed Bryony and Tovin's story without comparing the two books. At the beginning, it took me a little time to remember all the characters. But after that, I couldn't put it down. I loved the fictional world, the magic system, the atmosphere, and that incredible slow burn that keeps you reading, craving just a few more crumbs of their growing attraction. The dark moments also added intensity to the story. I was thrilled by how Tovin protected Bryony from others and refused to share Harry. Think Julie Soto did a fantastic job because this book feels completely unique. The ending is intriguing. So now I can't wait for the second book. Dark romantasy, enemies to lovers, forced proximity, slow burn my aesthetic on Instagram. Thank you to NetGalley and Forever for the arc in exchange for my honest review. All opinions are my own. Sylvie Semi-Hiatus, who has 88 likes, says, Romantasy by Julie Soto. Many thanks to NetGalley for providing me an audiobook in exchange for an honest review. 4.25 out of 5 stars. This book surprised me in the best way possible. Before reading this book, or rather, listening to the audiobookie, had only read one other novel by Julie Soto, her debut, and I remember enjoying it very much. So, when I saw the announcement that she was releasing a romantasy inspired on ship Dramione from Manacled, even though I haven't read that one yet, the page count still intimidates me. Knew I had to add Rose in Chains to my TBR as soon as possible. I've heard nothing but glowing praise about Manacled, and knowing that this book drew inspiration from it sealed the deal for me, and wow, it did not disappoint. Rose in Chains is dark, intense, emotional, and completely addictive. Julie Soto somehow manages to balance morally gray politics heart-wrenching slow-burn romance, and a gripping fantasy world without missing a beat. I found myself completely immersed in the dual timeline structure, especially the flashbacks, which added such depth to Bryony and Tovin's connection. The tension between them is so palpable. You can feel it crackling off the page, or in my case through your headphones. The world building is layered and haunting. The emotional stakes are sky-high. And Bryony, one of the most resilient and complex heroines I've read in a long time. And Tovin, don't even get me started. Love him, hate him, want to shake him sometimes all at once. If you love dark romantasy with political intrigue, forbidden longing, and characters who are as broken as they are brave, then this one's for you. It's not even July yet, and here I am getting hyped up for next year's July book release. Aaron Rose, who has 96 likes, says, "For you know what, Julie Soto. I am so glad I gave you another chance, because this was amazing. The fact that she can write a fantasy this good is crazy work, and I am here for it. I truly did love every character in this book. Bryony was such a fiery character, but she didn't actually start out that way. I was really impressed with her character growth and her mentality changes as the story progressed. It was kinda hard to read the parts where she was a complete pushover. But I understood that that was just because it needed to seem that way to advance the plot. I liked Tovin, but I wasn't in love with him. I thought that 80 of the time he was acting like a petulant child who would throw a tantrum when he didn't get what he wanted. The other 20 he was deep down a nice-ish guy. These two were the definition of what an enemies to lovers romance should be. The rough childhood history mixed with him owning her when he buys her at the auction chef's kiss. It leads for such an interesting story with these two. The side characters were lovable for the most part, but I did have conflicting feelings on whether I should like some of them or not. They really added so much to the story, whether I did end up not caring for them, and I wouldn't have it any other way. My absolute favorite part of this book was the plot. Trust me when I tell you that it was so interesting and it had me in a chokehold. I wanted to read this every time I had a thought about it, and every time I was in the middle of reading I didn't want to put it down. Julie Soto had such a way with words and storytelling that just hooked you and sunk its teeth into you with an addictive venom. It was memorable and fun and exciting, exactly how I like my fantasy books to be. The only main issue I had was that this was extremely predictable. I knew a majority of what was going to happen by the end of the book, but that's okay. The book was totally worth it. Please keep in mind that if you want to read this book and have specific triggers, look up the warnings. This book can be very graphic at times, and I think could be triggering to those who might just be looking for an engaging fantasy to try out. While there's no graphic scenes, it is very much a heavier fantasy that delves into sensitive topics. Overall, I had such a good time with this book, and I would definitely say that Julie Soto has earned my respect back. She did so well for her first fantasy, and I think she has a solid story to go off of. The next book gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. You best believe I'll be hopping in my car to Barnes when the second book comes out. Anyways, the hype around this book is real and valid. I tend to struggle with overhyped books, but I feel like this actually deserves more hype. It has beautiful writing, a compelling plot, and characters you want to root for all the way through. What more could you want, Julie Soto? I'm giving you another chance mainly because this book sounds so good and it's been on my mind for days. I hope that this lives up to its hype. Feruz, who has 253 likes, says, 2 stars. This book drained me emotionally and spiritually. Put me in a slump so bad I forgot how to enjoy fiction. Huge thanks to Hachette Audio NetGalley for the ALC. Enemies to lovers, dark romantasy, mind versus heart magic, forced proximity, royal rebellion vibes. I wanted blood, betrayal, and a villain to simp for. What I got was 16 hours of confusion, repetition, and the emotional depth of a soggy tissue. Not Gonna Lie, this was one of my most anticipated 2025 releases. A dark romantasy debut from Julie Soto. I was seated, headphones in, mood set. But this was not the serve I signed up for. Let's talk world building, or rather, the complete lack of it. This book threw so many names, histories, and kingdoms at me like spaghetti on a wall, hoping something would stick. Spoiler: nothing did. I was constantly lost. No map, no glossary, no clarity, just vibes and headache. The magic system, cool concept, zero execution. Heart magic versus mind magic had potential but ended up feeling like background noise, never explored, never grounded. The pacing agonizing. This wasn't slow burn. It was no burn. Chapters blurred together. So much waiting. Waiting for Bryony to do something. Waiting for the plot to move. Waiting for a single spark of chemistry to light up the page. At some point, I started hoping for a plot twist just to end the book. Now for the romance. Look, I live for tension. I breathe angst. I want to yearn. But Bryony and Tovin, no tension, no chemistry, no reason. It felt like the author told me they were in love and expected me to just go with it. Flashbacks were meant to make me feel something for Tovin. All they made me feel was tired. This wasn't slow burn, it was slow torture. Bryony could have been iconic. She ended up forgettable. She's the literal princess of a conquered kingdom. But instead of rising, she just floats through the story. Passive, reactionary, whiny. I kept waiting for her to roar. Instead, she whispered. Tovin, he had every ingredient of a morally gray fave, but ended up a wet napkin. No edge, no bite, just vibes and vague trauma. And don't even get me started on the structure. The out-of-order flashbacks felt like speed bumps. Just when things might start moving in the present, boom, we're back in time again. The book was trying to be deep. It ended up disjointed. The only saving grace, the audiobook narrator. Ella Lynch carried this on her back. Her voice gave life to a story that otherwise felt dead on the page. She gave Tovin a pulse. Gave Bryony a spine even when the script didn't. If you have to read this, go audio. Final thoughts. If you're a fan of The Auction and want to see it dressed up as trad pub romantasy, this might work for you. But if you're new to the story and need strong world building, real tension, or even just a heroine with a spark, prepare for disappointment. This could have been everything. Instead, it left me with nothing.